The 2025 MLB draft has concluded. We're going to talk about the Blue Jays' first two picks. And before the All-Star break finishes up with the Blue Jays going 6-3 in their last 9. Are you upset about it? How do you feel?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwasco, Carter First 2, as well on our TikTok and Instagram page at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube, make sure you do hit the subscribe or the follow button so you guys can keep up to date on all of your Blue Jays information. We got, your podcast, your shorts, your live streams, your videos, the whole ordeal right there on the YouTube. And it really does matter when you guys do hit that subscribe button. So do that. It's free. It means the world to us. You guys have been killing it as of late. But Carter, we got a lot to talk about. The Blue Jays draft. We got to talk about them finishing up before the All-Star break. How this is, what's going to happen on this podcast moving forward. We're going to bring out the Locked On Blue Jays big board in the next few episodes, so stay tuned for all of that. Me and Carter have sort of went nuts with who the Blue Jays could get and who's available, so we're going to talk about all that in sort of the days to come. But Carter, let's start off with the Toronto Blue Jays' 8th overall pick in the first round. That is JoJo Parker, drafted 8th out of Purvis High School. I think this was a bit of a shock pick. I don't necessarily, it seemed like this was a little bit off the board. Again, me and Carter aren't the biggest draft guys of all time. We'll be the first to say that. I don't follow these kids in high school and college, but we do sort of do a little bit of our digging. I don't know, Carter, shortstop. How do you feel about this one?
A little bit interesting when you have Arjun Nimmala in the system. Could be a little bit of foreshadowing with this team, but the front office has already come out and said, hey, we're interested in shortstops. We're really interested in the middle infielder prospects. And when you look at shortstops, they're usually the most athletic people on the field, maybe other than center fielders. So you can move him to second base. You can move him to third base. They don't necessarily have to stay at shortstop. So that was the biggest complaint I saw online. It's like, oh, you have Bo Bichette, you have Arjun Nimmala, you have now JoJo Parker. What are you going to do at the shortstop position? But they don't just have to play shortstop. I'm assuming one of them will be moved around, and maybe one of them will be moved even here at this trade deadline. There's really only one of them that could be. But just getting into JoJo Parker and just kind of the overall overview of what we can expect from him. Obviously not next year, being a high school kid, very young still, born in 2006. That is absolutely crazy to say. With us being pretty young hosts for the podcast, especially in the Locked On Network, with just seeing 2006 as some of the draftees this year. Absolutely wild, probably even more wild for some of you guys listening to this episode. But this is a guy that's supposed to be one of the highest upside bats in this draft. A guy that has one of the best bat-to-ball skills. Should be a guy that can be between 20 and 25 home runs at the big league level. Defensively, they say that he does have some athleticism problems. We'll probably have to move to third base or second base at the major league level. With these high school guys, it's nice to read over these draft profiles, but that's just kind of it. They're 18 years old. A lot can happen from when you're 18 going to 21, 22, 23 by the time you get to the major leagues. So right now it looks like a very good prospect coming from Purvis, Missouri. I had to look up where Purvis was going into this episode. I had no idea that was even a place, but excited and a little bit shocked, like you said, that the Toronto Blue Jays did decide to go with a shortstop rather than a starting pitcher, considering they don't really have a lot of that in this prospect system right now.
Yeah, and you know what? Just going over this guy again, you said it perfectly. I think when we talk about, anytime we talk about prospects, it's your line that it's all just lottery tickets, right? You never really know what you're going to get. The MLB draft is a lot of just, hey, we're picking this guy and hoping, because some of these guys might turn out, some of them not. Some might have injury trouble, some might not. You never really know. And it's a little bit different compared to every other sport because there is such a long time before you actually see them as MLB players. Whereas in some other leagues, if you're first overall, you're probably going straight into the league. If you're in top 10, you're probably going straight into the league. So baseball's very, very different. The thing that you brought up, Carter, that really, I think, cements in my head what I think me and you already knew, was that this team might look to move Arjun Nimmala at this trade deadline. That's what this move 100% signals to me, is that, hey, we got to replenish this. And maybe that's not the only reason that this team has made this pick, but I think it definitely lends itself to the idea that this team wants to go all in and is willing to give up young prospects for major league talent moving forward, into the rest of the 2025 year.
Yeah, I don't think this necessarily says, hey, we drafted a shortstop, that means Arjun Nimmala is gone forever. I just think that they're looking for upside. They're looking for athleticism. That is kind of what you get a little bit with JoJo Parker. I say he won't be athletic enough to probably remain at shortstop, but he is still an athlete who still should be a pretty good third baseman or second baseman, or maybe even a shortstop. Who knows? Again, it's a guy that's 18 years old. Maybe he does have some development, has a lot of time to develop in the minor leagues and then eventually get to the major leagues. But I think with the Toronto Blue Jays, what they were trying to do here is they're just trying to get one of those, again, higher upside guys, because they are probably going to move on from one of their top prospects, one of their other upside guys that they do have right now, them being Arjun Nimmala, that being Trey Savage, that maybe being Cal Steven, who was promoted to Double-A as well. So I guess in some sense, logically, you think, hey, like you have a shortstop to replace Arjun Nimmala. That line of thinking does make a lot of sense. But I'm not necessarily going that route. Like I kind of said before, you can move one of these guys. There would be a scenario where you could have Arjun Nimmala and JoJo Parker playing around the same time. Arjun Nimmala being 19, JoJo Parker being 18. So they should come up to the majors relatively around the same time. Obviously, Arjun has had some time in the minors before JoJo, but it's going to be interesting to see at the trade deadline. I do like the kind of the conspiracy theories and some of the perspectives that people are offering now online. A lot of people really running with that Arjun Nimmala is going to be moved. Whether he is, whether he isn't, not really up to me, obviously, but I'm not going to be mad if it is Trey Savage, if it is Arjun Nimmala. I want the Toronto Blue Jays to make a big splash at this trade deadline. But do you got anything else kind of on JoJo Parker before we move into the second pick for the Toronto Blue Jays in the third round?
You know what? Not a ton on him, but just going back to that idea, right, is the fact that the Blue Jays have made and done some really good deals around the deadline when they have been able to buy big, and they might have not had to give up one of their major prospects. So there's also that way of thinking is, hey, maybe they can get really good deals done without having to sacrifice a Trey Savage or a Arjun Nimmala, maybe an Aurelvis Martinez, but maybe not having to move on from one of your top two guys. I think that can happen as well. But I think, like you said, the conspiracy theorists in regards to Arjun Nimmala and JoJo Parker, I think that is a fair look too. So, you know what, everybody, we're just going to have to wait and see in a couple of weeks if that all comes to fruition or not. But Carter,
I got a couple more things quickly before, and then I'll lead it into the cooks of it all here. But if you guys don't trust our analysis, I'll read what the MLB.com had to say, and then obviously our boy that we talk about all the time on here, Ben Nicholson-Smith, as well as Keegan Matheson, had something to say on JoJo Parker. So Parker has the chance. This is from MLB.com. Parker has the chance to be a plus hitter with 20 to 25 homers per season. He's a sound left-handed, has a sound left-handed swing, manages to strike so well, and employs a gap-to-gap approach. He shows some real feel for driving balls in the air and posting more impressive exit velocities as he continues to gain muscle. Being 18 has a lot of opportunity to obviously get bigger and continue to improve on those exit velocities. We know with as departure of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., just all MLB players, if you hit the ball hard, that is probably going to lead to a lot of success. So this is from Ben Nicholson-Smith. He says, Rebel Scout likes lefty hitting. Shortstop JoJo Parker, taken 8th overall. Describes Parker as an ideal two-hole hitter who will likely end up at third base. The hit/power combo will be advanced with bat-to-ball, strong arm, and fringy speed, seen as a high character person as well, going the typical Toronto Blue Jays trend, not trying to draft people, not trying to have people come into this Toronto Blue Jays organization that think they're too good for this organization, that think that they're too good for the major leagues and that they are the best player on the field. You want to have confidence, but at some point the cockiness can be a problem. And the last thing from Keegan Matheson is JoJo Parker says it's a baseball name, so that's a start. I have to agree there. That is a pretty awesome baseball name. I'm going to have to kind of dive into a little bit over the break here. But a lot of real talent and real upside here from JoJo Parker. So it seems like a lot of the analysts around the Toronto Blue Jays really like this pick. Again, seen as that upside pick. Unfortunately, right now with this Blue Jays system, you draft an 18-year-old, can't expect him to come up in 2026, can't expect him to see him in 2027 either. This is probably a 2029, 2030 thing. So we'll be talking about JoJo Parker. We'll be following him along in the minor leagues as we have been with Trey Savage, as we have with Cal Steven. But that's a little bit of the unfortunate approach with these guys that you look at Brandon Barrera, you look at Arjun Nimmala, these first-round picks that you drafted straight out of high school. Unfortunately, if in the major leagues, you don't necessarily get to see these guys right away.
Yeah, Carter. And you know what? I just wanted to go back to a point you made, and it's the the attitude that a guy brings. I think that is important, especially when you are the only Canadian team. That's something you have to look at. You want a guy that you're going to draft to, have a little bit of a hometown feel, like where when he gets drafted, he's got a little bit of that connection to the city. And I think when I saw his draft video as well. So when he was drafted, just the look and expression on his face, the family around him. I think that shows you a lot of character and sort of what that guy's attitude is going to be. And a lot of times you can see specifically from even those draft videos, just the personality that a kid's going to bring. And a lefty bat card. I want to go back to that too. That's massive. This team always is looking for lefty bats, whether it's the draft, whether it's in free agency, whether it is in trades. So that's going to definitely bode well for him as well. But Carter, let's move on to the Toronto Blue Jays. I guess it would be 3rd round pick, 81st overall. And that is Jake Cook from Southern Miss. You know what? This is a guy, Carter, that I did a little bit of looking into. Again, I'm no prospect connoisseur. I don't know everything there is to know. But a kid that just looks the part. He looks strong. I watched a little bit of some of the clips that I found online right after they drafted him. This kid looks like he's got just pure athleticism. And that's what's good to see. Some kids, you see they're young. You don't necessarily know what they're going to bring to the table. This kid looks like he is an athlete. And, take with that what you will. But, I think it's a lot easier for guys to continue to progress when you can tell that they're, just very good athletes instead of just very good baseball players.
This guy is going to be a lot of fun if it works out here for the Toronto Blue Jays. I'll go into the speed thing after because that is his biggest accolade. This guy has like Billy Hamilton type speed. Maybe for a Blue Jays example, let's go with Bradley Zimmer here. No, I was going to go with Rajay Davis. Just a very quick guy. I'll go into the speed after, but pretty much known as a defensive specialist. From the scouting grades here from MLB.com, they have him as a 60 arm grade, 65 fielding grade. Overall, 45 is not going to be a power hitter. Maybe would be that traditional leadoff hitter if everything really works out. Kind of slap singles, going to be able to steal bases. Hopefully is able to get on base as well. But the main thing I wanted to get into is this guy's speed is absolutely off the charts. He was drafted an 80 in the scouting report. That is the highest grade that you can have. Going back and reviewing the notes from Jim Doyle, it appears Southern Miss center fielder Jake Cook tied the all-time record for a 30-yard dash at the MLB Draft Combine. Jarrett Curtis ran a 3.5 in 2022. Cook matched that. So that is going to be absolutely insane to see how many stolen bases that this guy does have when he does go to the minor leagues. This is from Baseball America. The outfielder had an excellent first full season as a hitter. He slashed 350 with a 436 on base, a 468 slugging with 32 RBIs. So the hitting is going to be the biggest issue at the major league level. The defense is there. He will be able to at least be probably a 4th outfielder. But we're looking at the upside here. We're looking to see if the bat is going to be able to come through fruition because this guy can just be an even slightly below league average hitter with that speed that this guy does possess. This guy, he could be a guy that steals 50 to 60 bases at the major league level.
Yeah, Carter, and a plus arm, right? He's a guy that can throw the ball well too. So you put all that together and you get a very good defensive player. Now, that goes into classic Toronto Blue Jays fashion. They want defense. They want solid defense. And with this guy, you're getting that. But you're right. It's all going to come down to the bat. But, defense can take you a long way. I mean, even when Dalton Varsho wasn't having his best years at the plate, very different profile. Dalton Varsho, I think you see, has had the power, whereas this guy, it's very different. But in the same sense, you can do a lot just based on your fielding. There are teams that will want this guy because of his defensive ability, the speed on the base pass, everything. So, this is a very intriguing one for me. I don't have a ton on this guy besides some of that stuff, just because he wasn't a 1st round pick, and they do deep dives into the first how many ever picks. But at least to see bits and pieces of what we may see in the future, Carter, that's what's always exciting. And some of you guys may not care about the draft, but this might not only affect guys who end up playing on this team, but guys that end up could being trade pieces in years to come, or that we can flip for somebody that's MLB ready or MLB talent. So it all is all important, and it's not the end all be all, but it is a piece to this game of baseball here.
Yeah, we look at how important the draft is just from last year, the way the Toronto Blue Jays prospect system was. By all means, it's not the greatest thing to ever exist, but it got significantly better with a good draft. You get Johnny King, you get Cal Steven, you get Trey Savage, a lot of guys with higher upside. If some of these guys can work out again, that's how you continue building on to having that above average prospect system. That's how you continue on being a competitive team. You can't necessarily just go out and buy every single good player. You're going to you're going to have to be able to have some homegrown talent. And hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays can continue on with some of their draft success. As we know with Ross Atkins, he loves the D. He loves the defense. So Cook will absolutely fit that mold. And you might be wondering, why is the Toronto Blue Jays, why do they not have a second-round pick? It's the Anthony Santander signing. So at the time, I didn't necessarily mind it. Now, I mean, in retrospect, I'm not going to say that this is a bad signing. You know, we're half a year into a 5-year contract. But I mean, it might have been nice to have that second-round pick, you know, the way things went. But that is the reason that the Toronto Blue Jays do not have that second-round pick, is with getting Anthony Santander. They do lose that draft compensation. But excited to see how the rest of this draft unfolds, and excited to see, hopefully, this prospect system continuing to climb up the rankings.
Yeah, Carter, a lot more to talk about. We want to talk, obviously, about the games that happened over the weekend into the All-Star break. So we'll give you guys our thoughts and feelings on sort of everything that happened. The Blue Jays going 6-3 in their last 9 games. It's what we asked for, but now are we looking back? Are we happy about it? And we'll tee you guys up for the rest of the week with big things to come, obviously with the trade deadline looming. A lot to talk about this week on Locked On Blue Jays. Stay tuned right after this short break. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets or game tickets to go on sale, and we lose our spot for the show because, you just can't get on, or there's a glitch or whatever it is, and that should never be a problem, and that's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets, game tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the gets get closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% with their killer last-minute deals. I am the biggest fan of Game Time. It's the only ticketing app I use because it is the best. You get your view from your seat, the deals, the upfront pricing is my favorite piece, because I don't like to go on, think I'm paying something, and then, I go to the checkout and it's actually, there's a $30 fee on top of it. Game Time is the absolute best. Take the guesswork out of buying concert or game tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem code LOCKEDON MLB, Locked On MLB, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, Carter, continuing on. Obviously, it's not the way we wanted things to go here to finish off the stretch before the All-Star break. The Blue Jays do a great job at the beginning of this 9-game stretch. As you know, we sort of put this little 9 games into its own little bubble, saying that we wanted this team to go 6-3. Well, when you started off with a sweep, you sort of want them to do better than 6-3. But here we are. They dropped 2 to the Athletics, which I think is a gut punch right before you go to the All-Star break, especially for the fans.
Oh, it absolutely is. Like you said, you sweep the Los Angeles Angels, you have a 6-game stretch against the White Sox and the Athletics. You go 3-3 in that stretch. Not great. This team was really one pitch away in the 9th inning with Jeff Hoffman from getting swept by the Sacramento Athletics. I finally made the switch because I saw them play in Sacramento. I probably will have the odd Oakland Athletics take here and there. I will throw that out, but we'll slowly start to move on to Sacramento here, especially when they beat up on the Toronto Blue Jays like they did this last week. I guess I'll get the city right, just a little bit of respect. This team is a little bit sneaky. I'm not going to lie. The pitching, horrific. Other than Jeffrey Springs, I mean, that guy was Randy Johnson from the left side. Absolutely ridiculous in that 3rd game. But they got some sneaky talent here, and they got a little bit of our future ahead of them. I've talked about it the first time we played this team. Lawrence Butler, Tyler Soderstrom having a very good year. Brent Rooker, you could say a million good things about that guy. Jacob Wilson, again, unbelievable rookie season. The guy we didn't really talk about in the first series, but now has been an absolute menace up to this point. It's Nick Kurtz kind of arriving out of nowhere, being another rookie on this baseball team. You got 6 players now, along with Shea Langoliers, in this Oakland Athletics lineup. There it is, Oakland. But you got 6 out of 9 now that I'm pretty comfortable saying that they're pretty good, for sure, above league average hitters at the major league level. So you got Denzel Clark also making superhuman diving catches in the outfield. This offense is looking up. It's looking like things are starting to be built here in Sacramento. It's the pitching. I mean, you got a couple guys out of the bullpen. I mean, Mason Miller is absolutely dominant, which we will go into. But the pitching is where the Athletics kind of struggle here. But didn't really matter for the Toronto Blue Jays here in this series. You do score some runs in the first game, but other than that, you get lefties with a kind of horizontal arm slot and just really took it to the Toronto Blue Jays. Not a lot of offense in those last 2 games.
No, Carter, this is an absolute disappointment for me. And you know what? I got to give him credit too. Nick Kurtz was a guy, and I know this is going to be something terrible. Some of you may not want to hear this. I'm a big MLB The Show fan. So my way of sometimes learning about prospects is to play MLB The Show with their pipeline series guys. And I learn a lot about, different teams' prospects that way. And Nick Kurtz was a guy that just based on his attributes, I was like, oh, I better look this guy up. And he looked like a beast. And you know what? I almost didn't believe it until I saw him play the Blue Jays. And I'm like, oh man, this kid, he's got it. He's something else. And so he's always one of those guys on my radar anyway. So you know what? Hat tips to them and somehow figuring out a way to put together a decent, more than decent offense. It's you're right. It all depends on the pitching here. And in game 1, Carter, I mean, I guess let's start there. We're not going to go completely game by game because I think game 3 is what I sort of really want to talk about. But game 1, the Blue Jays bats looked like they didn't miss a beat. And you thought, hey, here we go. And then it sort of felt like it might all come crumbling down. And that all, leads itself from the 9th inning. And you know what? You got to give Scherzer's going out there doing exactly what you need of Max Scherzer to do. So hat tips to Max Scherzer as he continues to try to fight his way, to get as many innings as possible this season. And how many will he end up getting? Who knows? But you know what? That was a great game by him. But the 9th inning starts off with the Max Muncy home run. And I sort of had a pit in my stomach. I thought there were fears. There was something running down my leg. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, it's the Jeff Hoffman, roller coaster experience, kind of just taking us back to the Jordan Romano times, just, giving us a heart attack while he's pitching in this game. Just horrible command. Like that home run to Muncy, it's just a middle fastball. I couldn't be more center plate. Denzel Clarking with that single. That's another ball kind of over the middle of the plate, not exactly where you want to locate it. Brent Rooker, same thing, slider over the heart of the plate. Kind of a common theme being brought up here. Not great command from Jeff Hoffman. I don't care if he's throwing 97 or 98. If you're in the middle of the strike zone, I don't care who you're playing, especially we just went over how good the Sacramento offense is. You're gonna run yourself into some trouble, and that's exactly what Jeff Hoffman did. Strike out Nick Kurtz, again, probably the hottest Athletics hitter at this point, so shout out to him there, and he did get the job done, but he inherited a situation where it wasn't even a save situation, and it's a 7-6 ball game. The Jays were up 7-0 in this baseball game. I mean, it should not have been nearly this close. That's why I said one swing away. The Athletics did have a runner on in that 9th inning, one swing away from maybe being entirely different series that we were talking about. Still not great, but we're able to, I guess, salvage the series. Just want to talk about Max Scherzer. I thought it was super funny. I can't remember what inning it was in, but it was an at bat against Lawrence Butler. He gets up 0-2. And I don't know if Max Scherzer was just mean dogging him, like mean mugging him, kind of like in Get Hard, if you guys have seen that movie, when Will Ferrell's trying to train to get obviously hard and prepared for prison. Just, that mean mugging. I think that's what Max Scherzer was doing to Lawrence Butler to get him to have that pitch clock violation. And the funniest part about that for me was Max Scherzer looked like he was pissed off. He did not look happy that he got the strikeout on the pitch clock violation. Kind of just threw the ball towards the dugout. Gave him a little bit of a head shake. Just hilarious stuff from Max Scherzer. This guy absolutely hates the pitch clock, whether it's going in his favor or against him.
He does, man. It's one of my favorite things is when I watch Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer loves baseball, and I think he's one of those guys that
likes old school baseball. That's what the Max Scherzer is.
Yeah, and if anything changes in the game, you can just see it just aggravates him. And he's one of those guys that if something's going wrong or he doesn't like something, his face doesn't hide it. He shows every single emotion on his face. And so, yeah, he definitely was not happy about that because, he's a guy that also has, I think, puts a lot of pride in what he does. And for him to be able to get that strikeout normally, I think it would have meant a little bit more to him and he would have felt better. But instead if that's me, I'm gifted a strikeout. I'm laughing, but he's getting mad. I don't know. He's just a character, man.
Well, again, Lawrence Butler is no bum. Like, this is a pretty good young player that you got not a free strikeout because you got 2 strikes on him, but you got a call in your favor, especially with the pitch clock. But yeah, Max Scherzer just being that old school caliber guy, wants to work for his stat line, wants to work for what he does on the mound, doesn't want to be handed anything for free. Just thought that was absolutely hilarious in this game as well. You saw a double steal. You saw, I think it was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for sure. It was stealing second base. George Springer, just what isn't this guy doing? Actually, has not been doing great at the plate this last little stretch here. But yeah, steals from third base to home. It's absolutely hosed if you get a better throw from Muncy there. Maybe a pick from Shea Langoliers. I think probably more fault in the pick. I think Langoliers has to have that. That's the thing. He's an offensive player. Not the greatest defensive player, but yeah, Springer, sorry, not Scherzer. Springer's absolutely hosed at the plate. If there's maybe a little bit of a better throw, a better tag attempt as well. But just shout out to the Toronto Blue Jays being aggressive, especially against a young Athletics team. You want them to kind of panic and make those mistakes. But a very interesting game. Hard attacks throughout, but the Toronto Blue Jays do get their only win of the series. So I guess that is a positive that we can take away. Going into game 2, not too much that I had here, just kind of a weird game from Tyler Heineman. 2 catcher interferences on Heineman that go as errors for him, and then also threw a ball to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Not the greatest throw either. Very tough play, especially with Denzel Clark running. In retrospect, he should probably eat that baseball, but hey, he's trying to make a play. I kind of do understand it. Not the greatest game from him there. Just looking at some of the other notes I had here, Miles Straw, pretty good game. Had a very good swing on an outside pitch, kind of starting to rally later on in that game. Bo Bichette just continuing to be absolutely unbelievable. I really wish that swing in the 8th inning got out, because if he had 5 more feet, it's a tie ball game. And I mean, you got to blame not Alejandro Kirk, you got to blame Barger, you got to blame Jimenez. You got runners on 3rd and 2nd. You're down 2 runs. Alejandro Kirk has a very productive at-bat, getting a fly ball to center field. That guy's just so good at doing a job, getting the barrel on the ball. Maybe the best on the Toronto Blue Jays at getting barrel the ball. But he does a job, and you have Aston Barger strikes out. Leo Jimenez strikes out. As soon as you get Mason Miller in that 9th inning, it's not going to go that well for you, unfortunately. This guy is one of the best closers in the game. And he had an at-bat against Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I believe it was in the 3rd game. 103, 103, 103, 104. That's pretty tough to hit. So, I mean, once you get yourself in that situation where you get to the 9th inning, whether you're up or down 1, 2, or 3, and you have Mason Miller rolling out on that other side, at least 9 times out of 10, it's not going to go well for your team.
Yeah, that game was super frustrating because, again, I talked about this, it must have been a few podcasts ago, where I said that sometimes watching this team, and I'm going to bring up Vladdy because I will talk about him for the 3rd game as well. There are situations where Vlad comes up that I think this guy should be doing damage or doing something, and he doesn't. And I'm starting to get annoyed. Like I thought, oh, maybe it's just something I'm noticing, whatever. But as these games keep going on, it's something that really is starting to bug me. I just think this is a guy that, you get 2 walks in a game, that's great. But at some point, when you're supposed to be the big dog for this team, we need you to come up in a situation where you can put some juice behind a ball. And I'm not even saying hit a home run. I'm just saying put a ball through the hole and score a couple runners. But man, he just can't do it. So a little bit of pet peeve of mine, just throughout Vladdy's sort of this whole, I don't even know, last couple weeks, it really just hasn't gone well for him. So a little frustrated there. Kevin Gausman, just, I don't know. This guy, again, just didn't have his best stuff either. I mean, I don't think it was terrible. I think he just got beat up early and then just didn't find himself that game. So, I don't know, a little frustrating there as well, Carter.
Yeah, I'm not going to blame Gausman for this one here. Again, not the best stuff, but when you have a million errors in a baseball game as well, getting free runners on with catcher's interferences, kind of those dumb errors that you do have. Yeah. Credit to Kevin Gausman for pitching out of a lot of those situations, but just was unable to make some big pitches in a few scenarios where he was unable to get out of some innings. 5 innings pitch, 3 earned runs, not the strikeout. Didn't really get the swing and miss here. It seemed like the Athletics had a pretty good plan against Kevin Gausman in this one. Yeah. So, but I'm not going to be one to blame Kevin Gausman in this game anyway. Again, it's just looking at the scenarios that the Blue Jays kind of found themselves in. That 8th inning being a massive one. The 9th inning, it's against Mason Miller, but you get Joey Lopofito on. He gets the second base. You get a bunt down from Nathan Lucas. You have your top of the order up in that scenario. That's exactly what you want. Again, it's against Mason Miller, so I can't be overly mad at that. But not a great game from your Toronto Blue Jays there in totality. But other than that, I don't really got a lot on the second game. Just kind of chalking that a bit up to baseball, but just not a great approach from against Lopez from the starting pitcher on the Athletics as well. Seems like that lefty horizontal arm slot with Jeffrey Springs, which we'll go into in the 3rd segment here. It really seemed like it was giving the Toronto Blue Jays a whole lot of trouble. Maybe not necessarily picking up the baseball that well from these two pitchers, but yeah, it's not a great game from the Toronto Blue Jays. But the fireworks did happen in Game 3, that is for sure, and we will go over that after this short break here on Locked On Blue Jays.
So, Carter, continuing on with Game 3, because this is the one that I think me and you both have sort of the most notes on. And I know, we say, oh, there's so much talk, but we spent 15 minutes talking about draft picks because we have to do that. That's something big. But we also do have to sort of go over the games and our thoughts and feelings. So here we go. Game 3. Well, let's just start here. The start was absolutely, I don't even want to say the start. The entire game sucked. Like, the Blue Jays, if you get 4 hits in a baseball game, I mean, just chalk that one up. That game's done. If you win that game somehow, that is the baseball gods giving you every ounce of luck in the world. And the Blue Jays get no hit through 4, and then Davis Schneider homers, which we'll get into that. All of that went on there. But that's your first hit of the ball game, is a big blast by a guy that doesn't play every day. And you know what? Like I said, I'm a big Davis Schneider guy, and I love it when he does this stuff. But it's too bad that it comes in a situation in a game like this where his home run, I hate to say it, but doesn't really matter, right? That's sort of the hard part. But Carter, do you just want to jump right into it? Do you want to start with the whole kerfluffle that happened?
Yeah, I mean, Davis Schneider hit 2 home runs in the same at-bat, but only one of them counted. So I think we got to dive right into it. Jeffrey Springs, good game from him. We'll go into that after. But Davis Schneider has a plate appearance, absolutely hammers at baseball in the left field. Sportsnet always has the worst camera angles. I'm assuming they have some better angles in New York for these instances, but the one we got on Sportsnet, it looked like the ball was fair. Obviously, looking at the Toronto Blue Jays dugout, they thought the ball was fair as well, but on TV, couldn't really tell where the ball was. If I had to guess, again, I couldn't say it with confidence, but it did look like that ball stayed in that left foul pole. And then you saw David Schneider react right away. He's like, hey, that's a home run. The Toronto Blue Jays bench reacting, hey, that's a home run. Nobody going too crazy, though, because there was a crew chief review. The Toronto Blue Jays did not have to use their challenge in that scenario. But then when they come out and say, hey, the call has stood, if the call stands, that is a foul ball. We saw John Schneider get a little bit active in this game. It's the first time that he has been kicked out since the Kevin Gausman a million pitch inning. I believe it was in the 3rd inning. Can't remember who they were playing against, but that was the last instance John Schneider got kicked out. He got his money's worth in this one. I think he was out of the dugout for maybe 2 seconds before he got kicked out of this baseball game. Really gave the umpires the gears, and for good reason. I mean, like, everyone on the field, at least on the Toronto Blue Jays side, thought that was a home run, especially in a scenario like that where you haven't been playing your best brand of baseball. You are on track to lose a series to the Athletics. You're trying to inspire your guys in that moment, and I absolutely love that from a manager, just backing your guys. I'll go into some quotes after, but I'll throw it back over to you, just initial reactions to when you saw that whole thing unfold.
I mean, to be honest, I gave John Schneider a bit of grief last season where he just didn't go out there and back his guys. And it didn't happen. And it sort of took the whole steam out of the building. Well, this is one that he reacts perfectly. He goes out there, and then Davis goes and hits a second home run. So it was awesome. And I got to give my hat tips to John on this one. I think he reacted in the best way to try to get your ball team back into a game. So hat tips to him. But my biggest complaint is, yes, I tried to watch the whole thing back and try to get a better angle, and I couldn't really see one that was 100%. But at this point in 2025, how do we not have the technology to know if a ball is fair or foul? Like, that blows my absolute mind. And don't get me wrong, they're in Sacramento, which isn't a major league ballpark, that they don't have a million camera angles, so it's tough. But that sort of seems like a ball drop by the MLB. Like, that stuff can't happen. Like, we have digital strike zones, we have instant replays, but we can't tell if a ball is fair or foul. I don't know. That blows my mind.
Yeah, there's probably software where somebody can swing a bat and they'll be able to tell what they ate for breakfast that morning to give them enough energy to swing that baseball bat. But another problem with Sacramento is the foul poles, is that most major league stadiums have way longer foul poles that extend farther up into the skyline. So it's easier to tell whether a ball is fair or foul. When you at Sacramento, there's like half the size of a regular major league ballpark. So right there, that's one thing that can happen, is if you get a ball down, whether it's right field or left field line, it might be a little bit more of a judgment call, and it's going to be very hard to overturn, especially, again, assuming they have better camera angles in New York. But when you have the angles that we did, not very conclusive stuff. So that's why I had a little bit of a bad feeling in my stomach. I'm like, this probably won't get turned over. But in retrospect, I think seeing what John Schneider did made me feel even better than just seeing that ball being a home run, especially what happened on the next pitch with Davis Schneider. Absolutely love to see that. Your manager gets kicked out, and we haven't even really gone into how he got kicked out. He is absolutely on a rampage. I was looking for the umpire's name, finally got it here from Ben Nicholson-Smith. He wanted to talk to Brian Walsh, the third base umpire, the guy who made that call. You had the home plate umpire, you had the first base umpire, the second base umpire, Carlos Fabulous. You had another guy in there. You had like 7 guys holding John Schneider back. And I don't usually do this, but Brian Walsh is an absolute baby for what he did on the field. John Schneider's trying to ream him out for, honestly, probably a horrific call. If your entire dugout is reacting to something, they're not just doing that for fun, especially when they're down. I think at that point it was 4-0 in the game.
Yeah.
But just an absolute baby, Brian Walsh walking away from John Schneider. John Schneider would have tore through 4 buildings, would have overcome the Great Wall of China, just to get to Brian Walsh. It took, again, 7 guys. But if you're going to make a call, you got to stand by that call and not just, turn away, kind of cowered in the corner like Brian Walsh did. Not really on umpires much, but absolute coward move here by Walsh.
Well, and John Schneider is no small human being. They needed all 7 guys.
Yeah, on the other side, I might be a little bit scared if John Schneider, was fired up, coming at me, a 250-pound dude. I think he's like 6'2". Brian Walsh not the biggest guy, and he's probably like, "Oh, I messed up." And he probably knew he messed up. He's like, "I don't even know what I'm going to say to this guy." So I kind of understand it, but if you're going to make that call, you got to stand by it.
Yeah, no, you do. It's just, I don't know. If I saw John Schneider's big red face coming at me, I'm like, I got to get out of here too. I don't want him to like run me over because he might put me through the fence. So no, just a crazy situation. But I think it is a great move on John Schneider's behalf, which, like I said, last season, I gave him a lot of grief for not going out in the proper moments, in a moment where you could fire the team up. And he did the job there. So hat tips to him. Is he coming along as a manager? I think so. We've seen some progression from him in certain situations. We've also seen problems, but I think we're at least starting to see a progression from John Schneider here as the manager of this Blue Jays team.
Well, clearly what he did worked. Clearly firing up the dugout worked because on the next pitch, the other Schneider, David Schneider, your boy, obviously, launching a ball into the stardom, into the night in Sacramento. I guess it wasn't the night. It would have been evening, but still. And just seeing the reaction from the dugout. Ernie Clement fired the hell up. Absolutely love to see that. Some of the pitching staff, everyone smacking the dugout, smacking the mats, the bars, whatever, making some noise, showing their appreciation for what both Schneiders did in that situation. But just that's just ball. I mean, you absolutely love to see it. So
ball don't lie. Ball don't lie.
Exactly. Ball don't lie. So that's a great move by David Schneider. Just absolutely pimping that baseball. Just felt not a lot went well in that game, but that felt really good in that moment to see some entertainment from both Schneiders in that inning. But I thought there was a funny story. This, again, last thing on this, at least from Keegan Matheson. I got a quote from David Schneider, I guess, on the situation as well. But this ejection was some vintage John Schneider. This from Keegan Matheson. The clubhouse will love that. And he did a little bit of digging just to look into some backstory here about John Schneider. And this is what he came with. So back then, people around the organization tended to describe Schneider the same way. They loved him as a person, loved him as a manager. And if you stick around town for a few days, you might see some fireworks. If you think Schneider's face gets red in the Major League dugout, you should have seen him in the minors. They go on to say, "Oh, man, there was one in New Hampshire." Schneider said, "Are you laughing? Kevin Biggio hit a double down the right field line, and we had lost 4 games in a row with a really good team. I sent Harold Ramirez home. And first, he was clearly safe, but got called out. He was the tying run. Game over. My skull cap in brackets helmet went down, and I broke it in half. I almost chased the umpire into the tunnel of the dugout." So not a just new thing for John Schneider. Has had the history of maybe having a little bit of a temper problem. But as a manager for a baseball team, especially our Toronto Blue Jays, that's exactly what I want. I want a guy that's going to run through a brick wall to protect his players, and that's kind of what David Schneider continues on here. Says, "That was awesome by Schneiders. I really appreciate him coming out and having my back there. That's why he is a great manager." You can see that from that quote, just how much the players do appreciate it, just being in those scenarios. Obviously, we haven't played that caliber of baseball, but if some BS happened on the ball field and your coach came out, your manager came out and stuck up for you, maybe got ejected, maybe fired you up. There was a couple times that I can count on my hands. Not the greatest coaches for that in a lot of our scenarios. Not the most aggressive, I guess you could say, but it definitely did fire me up the odd time where our manager or coach did come out and gave the umpire rightfully the gears for making horrendous calls.
Okay, this is a tangent. This is not Locked On Blue Jays. I'm going to tell a quick story here, Carter. And they're both. You were on both teams, and I want you to remember one of them. First game, it was back. We were playing, I believe, for the high school championship in our area, and I made a slide to second to beat out a tag. The guy completely missed me, was probably 6 feet off, and the umpire called me out. And I remember I absolutely was losing it, and I was probably 30 seconds away from getting tossed. And shout out Jen Lowry. She came out and absolutely tore a strip off of this ump, and I think it saved me from being ejected from a ball game. So funny story, not funny story. And the ump actually came after the game, apologized. He played many games with him as the umpire, so he knew me and he knew I was probably right and that I didn't get tagged, but he missed the call. Said it was his bad, so we made up after that. The second one was in a slow pitch game. This might be my worst story of all time, but it was our first year that we were sort of starting to do well in slow pitch. And we were going for the finals. We were trying to make it. We didn't play well all year. We weren't really supposed to be a good team. And we started to put things together. And our friend Justin Powers, who you guys have seen on the pod once in a blue moon, he was at the trip to Toronto that we went on. He sort of chopped at a baseball. And the other team was saying that it was a bunt, that it counts as a bunt. And it started like a whole rally. And we had, I think it was the biggest fan crowd that there's ever been.
For some reason, I think we were second last in the league, playing the third place team in a team of a league of 12 teams. And there might have been 75 people there. I don't know why specifically they were watching our game out of all of them. But yeah, it was weirdly one of the most populated slow pitch games I've ever played. But yeah, the fireworks happen. I'll let you kind of finish the story here.
Yeah. So whatever. I go out there to have a conversation with the ump because their whatever team, one of their guys came out and was talking to the ump and they were arguing. And I remember just how fired up our team got. The people in the stands were yelling. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I was like, you know what? I got to pull off my best John Gibby here and try to get the team fired up. So all I said to the ump was, I said, just show me the rule book. He's like, well, I don't have the rule book. I'm like, well, there you go. There's your answer. The other guy lost it. He threw his cap down. And our team went nuts in the dugout, and Justin was fired up because he just, I think scored a tying RBI or something on that play. So yeah, there are two stories from the lives behind Braden Wasco and Carter First in dumb baseball moments.
Yeah, equally as important as what the Jays were going through our beer league slow pitch game. It's just a random game, I guess, in July against the Athletics. But I always love to do the comparisons of going over our real life scenarios. Maybe you guys can relate to this a little bit, but yeah, not quite the same caliber of baseball, especially when Justin Powers, from bench warmers, it's not a sword. That's the kind of swing that we're talking about here. Probably was a chop. They were probably right about it, but it was so much funnier that the umpire literally just had no idea that was the rule. So we ran with it, ended up losing the next game anyway. Did beat them though, and that is still a memory that we hold to this day. But yeah, it's always funny when, the fireworks happen. There's some big moments and just people yell at the umpires. There's a time and a place for it. Usually in major leagues, I love when it happens. Feel slow pitch, probably should yell at the umpires too much.
Well, that's a good thing. I was on the good side of that one. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't screaming. The other guy's losing his mind. So, I try not to get mad at slow pitch umps too often.
All right. So I got two more things from game 3. Obviously, that was the main showcase. Other than that, not a lot of good things from this game. Jeffrey Springs, 6 2/3 innings. David Schneider has that home run. And then Aston Barger absolutely just launches the baseball again into the night. Love to see it from Barger, but too little, too late at that point. It's a 6-3 game. Probably not going to be able to do much against Mason Miller, and they were not able to do that once again. Bo Bichette gets a hit against Miller, but one of the best relief pitchers in the game. Not ideal in a late inning game. You're not going to score 3 runs against Mason Miller. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. But two things I want to go over. Just quick shout out to Nathan Lucas, being from around the Sacramento area. Made a very good double play. Nice catch, obviously, in right. Would have been right field. Makes it a nice, strong throw to first base. Doubles him up there. So I wanted to give a shout out to him for kind of showing out in a series near his hometown. And the other one was just Jose Barrios. Just wanted to get your opinion on him as well. he just looked tired. Like, that is the way I would describe Jose Barrios. The velo was down. It looked like a dad that maybe just had a newborn, getting up at 4 a.m., getting the bottle, maybe changing a diaper from time to time. Maybe a little bit of struggles at home for Jose Barrios. Did not look like he had his greatest stuff. Maybe his worst outing of the year. I'm not confidently saying that. One of the worst ones for him would be in the conversation for sure.
The first game of the year.
Was he that bad in the first game of the year? I guess.
Oh yeah, that was the blowout. Remember, we did the TikTok where I had the hands on my head. It was like we thought this season was going down the toilet.
Game 3 of the year, game 2 ever. Jose Barrios was starting. I remember they played the Orioles. Don't really remember how that went. All the games I guess start playing together when you're at this point. But yeah, just not the greatest stuff from Jose Barrios. Doesn't really give you the length that you need. But hey, when you got long reliever Chris Bassett, who only had to go an inning, but was incredibly efficient in his outing, did say he would be available to pitch, did give us 1 inning. That was funny to see from Chris Bassett. But overall, not a lot of great moments from this series. I would say for me, the best moment, shout out to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 1,000 hits. Hopefully he can, start catching fire. But the best moment by far was the Schneider, bomb and ejection that we saw in game 3.
Yeah, and you know what? Just going off that, Carter, because I know we sort of got a little off topic, as we do if I start telling stories. We got a lot to get into this week. We want to talk about the All-Star break, just how confident we are moving past, the All-Star break or into the All-Star break and then into this back half of the season, how we thought, the first season went, player performances. We got the big trade boards that are going to be coming out. I have them made. They're sitting there. They're ready to rock. We want to get your guys' opinions on all of that in the next few episodes. And you guys have been killing it with the support lately. Everything that we've been doing, you guys have been knocking it out of the park. So we appreciate all of that. And let us know what you guys sort of thought on this ending to the season here, or the first half of the season with the Blue Jays going 6-3 in the last 9. We talked about that a lot. So let us know what you guys think. Also on the draft picks, we want to get your thoughts and opinions if you guys have any on the draft picks, sort of what you think it means moving forward. And just on the draft in totality, how do you guys feel? Do you watch? Do you tune in? Do you pay that much attention? We want to hear it all. Carter, my man, before we kick out of here, anything else from you?
Yeah, just not the way you want to go into the All-Star weekend. But hey, the Toronto Blue Jays in the grand scheme of things, still up 2 games in the New York Yankees. Boston Red Sox now right on their tail, winning 10 straight. That's something that we're going to have to look out for the second half of the season. But you're in a good spot. You're in a good spot to buy at this trade deadline and get aggressive to hopefully acquire a few pieces here at this deadline. Just wanted to say thank you guys for watching. All the likes, comments, subscriptions recently have been much appreciated. We are excited to go over the trade deadline. Some of our big boards will have the starting pitchers, some bullpen arms, and then some position players thrown in there as well. So we're excited to break it all down. Wouldn't be surprised if we have, I think there's like 40 people on our trade board. Wouldn't be surprised if Ross Atkins, pulls a rabbit out of the hat and goes for somebody that we had no idea would have even been available. So that is the beauty of the trade deadline, especially when you are buyers at the trade deadline. Just wanted to say thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back with you guys again tomorrow.